All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as Kyle Shanahan spoke to the press today. We'll tell you what he said coming up next. And, of course, first we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out, so get there early. Get some brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is brought to you by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. They offer a 120-night guarantee with a range of brands and price points. With Mancini's, you get free next-day delivery. I am loving my Mancini's bed. Click the link below or go to sleepworld.com and find a bed that works for you. Whether shopping online or visiting in store, use code KRUG10 and get 10% off. That's KRUEG 10, and you'll get 10% off in store or online at sleepworld.com. All right, we talked to Kyle Shanahan just now. He had his Monday press conference, and it started off with a surprise. Injury-wise, the only injury I saw in the game was Nick Bosa's ankle, but Bosa came back in the game, and obviously it wasn't a problem. That is great news. The not great news is that Deebo Samuel, on one of the last plays of the game, strained his calf, and Deebo is going to be out a couple weeks. That's a major, major thing for the Niners because Deebo's a runner, Deebo's a receiver. Ayuk hasn't looked the same, and Deebo has looked outstanding. So that's not good. But Deebo is going to miss a couple of weeks with a calf strain. Kyle was asked about Malik Mustafa and the fact that Mustafa played a little safety. And was that part of the plan, the writers wanted to know, or was that a reaction to George Odom and Jair Brown getting just toasted by Justin Jefferson for that 97-yard touchdown? And he said, no, that was the plan. They wanted to play him some and get him in there. You know, George Odom is a special teamer. Malik Mustafa is a guy who can play from scrimmage. You know, if Hufanga can't come back anytime soon, and we'll talk about him in a second here, Malik Mustafa is going to get on the field. There's no doubt in my mind. He's got more potential from scrimmage than George Odom. I think he's a better player than Odom. And I definitely think Mustafa is going to get on the field against the Rams next week. And they're going to ramp him up. I think Mustafa and Renardo Green are alphas who are ready to help right now. So there's no reason to sit them out. He was asked about Brandon Ayuk, and Ayuk, I guess, said after the game that he's like at 85%. Shanahan said that, you know, Ayuk looked 100% healthy. You know, they said they'd like to get him a little bit more involved than he's been, but you know, he may have played 85% of the snaps, but he, according to Shanahan, looked 100%. I mean, I'll say this. There's 100% healthy, and then there's peak. He's 100% healthy. I believe that. He's just not at his peak. We saw his peak last year. He's not at that spot right now. So we'll see how long it takes. You know, he was asked about Brian Flores, and was he surprised by anything that Flores and his defensive schemes presented in this game? And he's like, hey, man, this is what they do. They blitz or they back off and they play zone. He said, we ran the ball well. We got the explosives that we needed in the pass game. But, man, when you have 2 turnovers and a blocked punt, which is like another turnover, and you were 2 for 10 on third downs, that's it right there. You know, that's a big part of why the 49ers lost. They had 2 turnovers and a blocked punt, which is almost like having 3 turnovers. And then they went 2 for 10 on third down conversions. They ran the ball. They ran the ball at will. They got explosives in the pass game. Mason went for 5 yards a pop. It's a very, very difficult game for a quarterback to manage. And Shanahan talked about it, later in the presser when he was, well, first of all, he was asked, are you pleased with how you managed the clock in the fourth quarter? And he said he wouldn't do anything again. He said, when they got to 4th and 8, he felt like it was the best shot to kick the field goal and then go for the touchdown on the backside. He was asked about Talanoa Hufanga, and he says hopefully he can play this week. They'd like to get Hufanga out there here in the first month of the year. I think right about week 3, week 4, week 5 is when I expected him to come back. We'll see if we see him against the Rams. I don't think they need Hufanga to beat the Rams, so they'll probably hold him out of that game. but we'll see. Brock Purdy, according to Kyle, had several good throws against the zone. He was asked, did Brock take more time than he should? And Kyle, I thought the part of the presser where he really did kind of paint the picture that, that he was very pleased with Brock, that, Brock made a number of good throws against the zone, but that when you're playing quarterback against this defense, it's a lot because you need to, on every snap, decide, are they sending 5? Are they sending 6? Are they sending, and then are they sending 4? But they're sending 4 guys that you didn't think they were going to send, and you got to do a quick count. So you got to do a quick, math at the line of scrimmage and be like, okay, are they rushing 4 and dropping 7? Are they rushing 5 and sending an extra guy and dropping 6? Are they sending 6? And, at times, at the quarterback? I mean, they did all that. They sent 5, they sent 6, they rushed 4, they rushed 3. There were times where they rushed 4 and had 2 guys basically lurking, almost like delayed blitzers off the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, Kyle's point is, look, if you're the quarterback, you've got to decide one of 2 things. You either, hey, they're sending 5 and you got to hit the hot route. And you got to find out, who that hot receiver is and where that blitz is coming from, and you got to find the hot route against the blitz, or because they're blitzing a ton, and they're also dropping into zones, and then you got to hunt for holes in the zone. So it's 2 different mindsets. It's that aggressive, the defense is dictating to me, where I need to go with the football, versus, you know what? I got to scan the field, go through some progressions, and find openings in the zone. So they put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and I thought Shanahan did a great job in this presser of just kind of painting that picture. They'll blitz or they back off and play zone. But for the quarterback on if you're running the ball, not a big deal. But if you're the quarterback, how do you develop those explosives in the pass game? How do you get that rhythm that you seek? So many quarterbacks are better with a rhythm. It's hard to get a rhythm. I think there's one thing that is totally true, is that when you're playing Brian Flores and he's going to blitz you 80% of the snaps, and then he's going to play all kinds of zones behind, and he's going to send 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and different looks of with rushers. Sometimes he's overloading his sides. Sometimes he's coming off the edges. Sometimes he's sending smaller people. You got to process what you see very fast, and then you got to execute. And then it puts a lot of pressure, and you might have to find the hot route, and you might be 5 pass plays in a row where you got to find the hot route. And then all of a sudden there's 5 plays in a row where they're showing blitz, but you know what? They rush 3 and they drop into an 8-man zone, and you got to find the hole. So it's a totally, it's a huge challenge for the quarterback. And it sounded like Shanahan was relatively pleased with the way Brock handled it. Matt Barrows asked, now with CMC going on injured reserve, but Deebo also being out a couple weeks, are the Niners looking to pick up a wide receiver? Or are they looking to add a running back? So, I mean, and Kyle said, we're not sure. Not sure yet. We're not sure what we're going to add. But it's probably going to be one or the other. My guess is it's going to be maybe somebody who's a running back who can catch the ball. Might be somebody with some speed. It'd be nice. The one thing that I think that, it was really clear. I mean, my number one takeaway from watching this game was that the 49ers don't have a lot of speed. And they, especially when Ayuk is not fresh and you're not using Garendo and Cowing is not being used. Ronnie Bell's not a burner. Jawan Jennings ran in the 4.7s. Deebo's not a burner. Ayuk's not really a burner. They need Jacob Cowing to be on the field and create that space and that separation. And, if they don't trust him, they might not at this point, at least to begin the year. I don't see a lot of separation. I really don't see a lot of separation. And that makes it hard on the quarterback as well. So, yeah, Kyle said They're not sure how they're going to feel. They're going to be adding somebody this week. It's either going to be a running back or a wide receiver, most likely. They're not sure yet. And then he was asked about Trent Williams. How did Trent play? And the reality is that Trent got burned a couple times for a couple sacks. And Kyle, kind of said, hey, he played decent. And then he kind of went on to his conditioning and said, hey, he didn't get tired. He didn't have to come out. And because he's looking at the positives. So I would say overall, I was expecting him to play great, but have problems with his conditioning. But instead, he didn't look like he had problems with his conditioning, but he also didn't play great. He got bull rushed one time by Pat Jones, the second, into the lap of Purdy, and it resulted in a sack. He picked the inside guy instead of the outside guy, which is the right thing to do on another play, but Jones got in on that play for another sack of Purdy. The reality is that, and I said it all week long, Colton McKivitz and Trent Williams were going to be hugely challenged in this football game. Why? Because the Minnesota Vikings have really great personnel on the edges. They're inside, Harrison Phillips is not bad against the run. Tillery's been around the block. Those guys are just okay. Jonathan Greenard, big-time rusher. Pat Jones, the second, he's got like 5 sacks. Dallas Turner, probably the best pass rusher in the draft. Andrew Van Ginkel, also a really good pass rusher. So, they have 4 really good edge players, and it was going to be a ton of pressure on Trent, a ton of pressure on Colton, and it was a ton of pressure on those guys. So there you go. That was pretty much he was also asked about, Kittle. Was heat an issue for Kittle because he got an IV? Was that an issue for Brock on the fumble? And it's like, was it sweat? And this, I don't know. Did he have sweaty hands? Who knows? He dropped the ball. He fumbled the ball. As far as George, was heat an issue? Heat's always an issue in September football. I mean, that's just reality. And he had to get an IV to deal with the heat. And then Jordan Mason they asked about Jordan Mason's pass protection, and Shanahan said he did a real good job. Him and Juszczyk did a really nice job in pass protection overall. So that was the rundown from Santa Clara. To me, the big news here is Deebo is got the calf strain. He's going to miss a couple weeks. Hufanga could come back this week. It's clear that Kyle didn't think Trent played all that well. Didn't want to get too deep into that. And I thought his strongest point was just that he was pretty pleased with the way Purdy played overall. And he kind of painted the picture that on every single snap, you've got to be ready in an instant to go to find the hot route, get the ball out right now, or you know what? They're rushing 3 and they're dropping 8. Now find the soft spot in this zone with all these extra bodies. Or they're rushing 4 and they're dropping 7. And, but maybe it's not the same 4 that you think. So you identify it as a 4-man pressure, and then you got to hunt for the spot in the zone. And there were times where they almost got home with 4-man pressure. There was times when they sent 5- and 6-man pressures and didn't get home. So, there's a lot going on from the quarterback's perspective, but I thought it was interesting that Shanahan said, hey, look, this is a lot of pressure on the quarterback. You either have to find the holes in the zone, or you got to find the receiver off the hot route against a 5-man or 6-man rush with a defensive end or a defensive tackle or a linebacker sitting in your lap. So it's not easy. And there's going to be some mistakes along the way, and there were. All right, that does it for the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mancini's. Whether you're shopping online or visiting in store, use that code KRUG10 and you'll get 10% off in store or online at sleepworld.com. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.